Good evening. Um, Hope you might have had a hectic day today because it's Tuesday, the second day of the week. So, just for a relaxing time, maybe we can listen to some trends that are going at the moment in terms of agentic shift in process reengineering with a cup of coffee. So, without any further delay, let's dive into the topic. So, if you see every week, we get to hear some company getting into AI transformation. Like there's a new platform, new vendor partnership. Sometimes there are even new chief AI officer that the company has hired to do AI implementations within the organization. But down the line, maybe in 18 months or like in about 1.5 year, 2 years time, nothing moves forward. Like, everything stops. People are not, they don't see any benefits coming up. They don't see processors moving forward as expected. People are confused about what is happening and why the processors are not working and all. And sometimes even leadership is quietly wondering why they didn't receive the financial impact as they expected. But according to McKinsey's AI report, if you see the most comprehensive state AI report, 88% of the organizations they adopt AI transformation, but only 6% of them see financial impact. So when you say 6%, 8 from 88% to 6%, why there is such a huge gap? 82% of huge gap. And it's not a bad luck or a technological gap, to be honest. It's nothing to do with AI transformation, but it's about the strategy that the organization has adopted. If you see, if you go and ask a lot of people in these organizations why these companies are not moving forward as they expected, what's going wrong, the leadership why it's not adapting as it's expected, and lot of organization, even though they have tools and things like that, they are more into AI adoption than AI transformation. So what's the difference between AI adoption and transformation? So when you say AI transformation, it's more like redesigning the way you work with AI implementation. But when it comes to AI adoption, it's just applying AI technology to the existing process without even checking whether you need AI or not. You just put AI to a process, not even analyzing whether the process is AI ready process. So that's where things go wrong. So even in McKinsey's report, they call it corporate AI theater, where you have attractive dashboard, roadmaps, everything is there, but the model doesn't move forward, the operation doesn't improve. According to BC, now if you go and ask leadership what's wrong, what's happening, what they would say is maybe the model is still learning, there's data problems, things like that. Maybe what they say is true, I'm not totally disagreeing with it, but according to BCG analysis, if you see, 10% of the AI implementations algorithms, 20% is data and technology. But the remaining 70% is about people, process, and culture. What we are more worried about, only this 30% of the data and algorithms. We say the model is still training, data is not ready, whatever. But what about the remaining 70%? The people, process, and culture. What are we doing for them? You just put a AI strategy, you just implement a tool. Do you think people, process, and culture will just adapt as it is? No. There is a lot of work that has to be done when it comes to people, process, and culture of the organization. This is what you call AI transformation, and to do that, you need process reengineering. So, if we move forward, what are the lessons we learned from failed AI implementation? So, that is something very important we should consider. So, the first lesson I would say is lack of AI ready data inputs. according to McKinsey's report, around 63% of the organization which has adopted AI projects is likely to let go of them because they don't have proper data structures. Why? Now, since now we know AI maybe in the last 2 to 3 years, but before that we had legacy ERP system, siloed databases for each and every department, and unstructured data records, things like that. But with this, how can you implement AI? For you to have AI, you should have consistency, proper clean data structure. So have you done all that homework before you do a AI implementation or a transformation? So that's where a lot of organizations go in the wrong path. Second one, treating AI as a tech project. According to again McKinsey's state report, what McKinsey says is around 21% of the organization, only 21% of the organization actually do redesigning with AI transformation. They try to change the process or redesign the process with AI transformation. Rest of the 79% is just into AI implementation. On an existing process, they just come and drop a AI tool. That's it. So that's how a lot of organizations treat it. So it's just a tech project. They don't see it as a business transformation. They don't consider the processes and the way we have to work, all those things. It's just the model, the accuracy, things like that. So that's the second reason. And third is, to be honest, absence of executive ownership. So when you talk about executive ownership, business process, the operations team should take control of this implementation of an AI project, not IT. Around 48% of the organization that are considered as high performers when it comes to AI, majority of the 50%, almost 48 to 50% of the organization business take the ownership of this tech implementation. So what they look at is how much the errors, what is the cycle time, how is the demand forecast accuracy, how long does it take for the organization to finish one cycle, things like that. Not really model accuracy, latency, and things like that, which tech considers. So if you have this kind of matrix and if you have planned your AI transformation in that way, then maybe you can avoid you won't be the next company that again failed with AI transformation. And then change management plan. So this is where I talk about the people, process, and culture. So how are we going to handle this AI transformation? What are the new skills people should learn? So with a new technology coming in, the way people work will change. So there might be new skills, resources, tools they have to learn. So what are those tools? Second, what are how is their role going to change? Not about really designation, but the role. How are they going to work? There might be something which they've been doing before transformation, they have to let go. And some stuff which now with the AI transformation, they have to start doing, they have to start it, like maybe something new. So those kind of information has to be given. And then the performance matrix. So the next point is also that matrix misalignment. With AI transformation, some of the matrix which you have been following till now might be invalid. I'm not telling everything, but some. Or maybe you have to introduce new KPIs that would actually measure human working with AI, which will show the efficient and effectiveness of both human and AI working together. So those kind of matrix should be introduced instead of just measuring the technical performance or the model performance, things like that. So these are the 5 reasons that industry highlights and even the statistics highlights as the main reasons for failed AI implementation. So if we move forward, yeah. So So now, when you have to build an AI transformation without being the next organization that loses the momentum and things like that, you might have to do a bit of a re-engineering or understanding, to be honest, the understanding about the organization or what kind of change you have to do when it comes to business processes. So that way, there's two main critical factors you should consider. One is business process re-engineering and the other is business process improvement. So what's the difference between re-engineering and improvement? Business process re-engineering is a technique that redesigns the entire process from the inception. So you strategically, structurally redesign, re-engineer the whole process. But when it comes to business process improvement, it's just a systematic approach where you do a small improvement, or maybe you take a next step, like, a systematic approach of improving one by one, things like that, where you don't put people into a dramatic change, but systematical. In fact, BPR is part of BPI, yeah, because by re-engineering each and every process, at one point, the business, the way the organization work improves. So when it comes to business process re-engineering, what are the methodologies that are already there in the industry? So there are few, like Hammer and Champy's methodology. It's more of like, introducing a dramatic change in the organization by implementing new techniques and improvement to the organization. The Davenport methodology is about understanding the processes that are in the organizations at the moment, identifying the bottlenecks and doing a restructuring. Manganelli and Clam's methodology is more of like where you try to do a change, but you mostly give prominence to the strategic the organization has implemented. So whatever the re-engineering or restructuring you do, you always try to align with the company's strategic end goals. Finally, the Kodak's methodology, it's more of like, or whatever re-engineering you do aligns with customer satisfaction. As far as you can make customer happy, then that re-engineering becomes successful. So those are the four methodologies. But when it comes to business process improvement, as I told, it's a systematic improvement. So all these buzzwords you'd have heard about, Lean, Six Sigma, Kaizen, total quality management, all of that is part of business process improvement. But to improve your process, first you should start with re-engineering and restructuring. So that's what we are going to dive into deep a bit to understand what are the business process re-engineering that are there, and how you could, what are the importance, where you should actually do business process re-engineering, to be honest. So the first point, when you see a significant performance gap in the way the organization is operating, or like when you try to align with industry, if there is a significant performance gap, then yeah, you might have to do a re-engineering. So now, what is the significant performance gap? So if you see now, organizations, like we had industry 1.0, 2.0, now 3, and we have come to 4.0, where you see digital transformation, where you try to implement system and try to optimize the way you work with systems than depending on manual work. So when all the other competitors in the industry are adapting to systems, if you're just going to rely on a manual work, then that will show a significant performance gap. So let me share one of the experience I had with one of our clients. So this particular organization, they are into cable and wire production. So for them, quality management is something very, very important, because they deal with wires, which is at the end of the day with electricity supply and things like that. So if the production isn't done following the proper quality practices, quality standards, the entire organization will be at risk. So therefore, they have a proper quality management methodology. But the sad part is everything is on manual, like on Excels and papers. They don't have a proper system. So even if they want to generate a report, which they might have to share with customer, they have to sit and write or type it. So ideally, they might be, than doing the quality check, they might be wasting a lot of time in sitting and writing this report. So there maybe, whereas other competitors have their own system. So people have a lot of backlog, they work extra just to get this manual report done. So in such a situation, the best way is to have a system to manage all the quality management activities end to end, the activities, and automatically when the activities are tracked, it's easy to generate a report, right? So that is something which I could say. And the second one is shift in market dynamics. Again, another example, what I would say is warehousing. So when it comes to warehousing, if you're just going to have, you might have a warehouse system, you might have inbound, outbound logistics, everything. But if you're again going to put a person or put few people to manually count each and every stock, just imagine how much time you're wasting. Whereas now you have barcode scanners and many other scanners and automatic ways to track input and output, like raw material input and goods that are going out, finished goods, whatever. So if you're gonna, and even like maybe with one or two resources you can tackle it, but with a manual warehouse system where you have to count each and every good and check it, it's gonna take a lot of time and you might need a lot of people also. So that is one thing. So when there are practices and when you say shifts in market dynamics, you have to adapt it. When it comes to strategic shift, it's mostly like a place where you have a merger, acquisition, and things like that. So for example, when it comes to acquisition and mergers, it can happen both horizontal and vertical. So horizontal is where you go and acquire your competitors. So for example, recently NTB acquired Panacea, right? So that is horizontal. But when it comes to vertical, integration is where you go and acquire suppliers. So as a garment manufacturer, if you're going to acquire a thread supplier or a laser supplier, so that's vertical acquisition. So in that case also, you might have to do process re-engineering because garment manufacturing is totally different from thread and laser manufacturing, the way they do it. It's close, but still there are, the way they work is different. So definitely you need process re-engineering. Next, customer dissatisfaction. So customer is the king. Whatever you do, at the end of the day, if customer is unhappy, then all your efforts go in vain. So if customers are continuously complaining, if there are problems in the delivery time, if the service quality is low, then there's something you might have to figure out. For example, in a particular area, let's take Uber company and Uber, and in a particular area, if they are continuously getting complaints about delivery or food delivery or maybe even food delivery, then there's something wrong there, right? Maybe there is a problem in the way you are hiring the people or you are evaluating the resources who are doing these deliveries, or maybe the KPIs that are set for them. So there you might have to do a bit of a re-engineering, do an analysis and do a re-engineering to see how you can do better and get customer loyalty back again. Then cost reduction need. If the current process have accumulated a lot of steps, redundant steps, a lot of people, then definitely you have to do process re-engineering. A lot of steps takes a lot of time and it'll consume a lot of resources also, which at the end is going to be a huge cost when it comes to maintaining the labor within the organization. So if you are going for a cost reduction strategy, then definitely you have to have a process re-engineering. And maybe if you are doing a lot of manual work also, then you might be having a redundant step. So for example, if I take the first example about this quality management system, again, as it was done by human, they don't really trust the people who were working. So each and every department does a quality check. Maybe the quality team does a detailed check, but there onwards even R&D, sales, they also do a random check. So just imagine how much time they are wasting in this quality check thing. So those are the areas where you might need a process re-engineering to save cost and save time. and to ensure that organization work in an optimized manner. So now you have an understanding of what is business process reengineering, what are the methodologies that are in the industry, and when do you have to consider process reengineering. Now the next phase is to understand what are the steps of process reengineering. If we decide to do process reengineering, how are we going to do it? So the first thing, you should know what are the processes the organization have, whether you are doing it whether you are doing it for your organization or whether you are doing it for like someone for a client company. You should have a clear understanding of what is the core business, what are the processes, what are the departments and the processes they have. Should have at least a brief understanding. And then you should understand the processes, do a backlog or a quiet note, a short note, and then you have to analyze each and every process to see what are the processes that need re-engineering, what are the bottlenecks there, and what are the pain points, most importantly. If a process has pain point, then definitely there is a restructuring or re-engineering you have to do. The people or the resources that are doing that process are going through severe pain. That's why it's called pain point. So without fixing that, whatever the technology or tool you're going to implement is not going to be helpful at any cost. So that's where you analyze the process. So if you come to fifth floor, you can see where we have done a lot of process maps, where we have actually spoken to the companies and have tried to understand the processes. So that's how you analyze the process, you identify the gaps, and you do analysis about the pain points. So after you get all those information, as a consultant, as a business consultant or a process re-engineering consultant, you can help the team or your organization or even the client to redesign the process. So that is something not as one team, the re-engineering team can do. It's again a collaborative work. You need the process owners also to redesign the process. You can suggest the best business practices, the best industry practices, but what they want should come from them. So together you redesign the process with them together. So you can use, you don't really have to have paper and pen to do it. There are a lot of tools available. There's Miro, there's a lot of BPMN tools, which you can use, Visio, Camunda, things like that, which you can even automate after you draw it. So you can take those tools to redesign the process. Now, after you have a structure of the processes redesigned, the next step is to acquire tools and resources. Now, in fourth step only, you get to see the technology. What are the tools you need? Whether you need a new team, a new change management team to carry on this project, a process owner, a change executive, a change agent who should communicate it with each and every department, how you are going to implement everything, the entire plan comes here. Now, for example, as you are doing restructuring and re-engineering, you might have to train the team on how they should work, how they should adapt to new technology, and how they should change their way of working. So whether you're going to facilitate them with LMS, a learning management system, what kind of modules you're going to have, videos, tutorials, documents, everything comes into preparation. You should have all of them ready, prepared before you start implementation. Once you are ready with that only, you should go to the implementation part. So now you have the resource ready, you have already spoken to your vendors, you have the tools ready, LMS is ready, the processes are redesigned, it's done. The system is also ready. You just have to implement it. And that also, it's not something you can just go and, just drop it in the organization or in the process. It will be a cultural shock for the entire organization. Maybe you might have to do it slowly, parallelly, phase-wise, things like that. And you have to get the consent of the entire organization also. So that change happens gradually and slowly. Maybe you implement and see, you test it. If it doesn't work, you stop it, you see what are the problems, you sort and then come again. Likewise, it goes like, a training management program, like learning, implementation, learning, things like that. While implementing, you should also monitor and evaluate. Like I told, you should have your performance matrix ready, the KPI set. So once the implementation is done, then you should monitor the performance also. At the end of the day, as I told, if it's not helping with process optimization, there's no point in all these efforts. The error rates, if the error rates haven't reduced, if the forecast accuracy hasn't improved, the cycle time hasn't improved, what's the point of all these efforts? So you should consider, monitor, and evaluate the new transformation continuously in the organization. So this is just a scenario which I thought I will discuss with you to give you a clear understanding of how a totally unstructured and a messy process with small redesigning, transformation, and automation techniques, how it comes to a perfectly re-engineered process which you can implement with AI. So if you see this first box, which goes as unstructured business process, and let's take customer registration. Of course, now you know in banks, if you have the app, you can just go and open the accounts. But for the initial customer registration, you still have to interact with the front desk, right? So in that case, few years back, before AI wasn't there, it's all messed up, right? Like I'll take, for example, a government department, any corporate, not corporate, I would say, any government department, if you go and talk, the person now it's much better, but those days, no one knows to whom you should go and talk. If you go and talk to one executive, they will direct you to another executive, and then so on. And at the end of the day, you might even take like you might have gone by 8 a.m., but even by 5 p.m., you might have not got your work done. You have been just going around the department. That's how it has been. A lot of documents, a lot of people, but sometimes you might not get the work done. So that is an unstructured business process. But it's a rare scene to see now, but still, now even at some government departments we have that. But after you redesign the process, it will look like something like this in the second box, like the second stage, where you can clearly lay out the customer, the front desk, and the back desk. So if it's front desk is the people who will be clearly communicating with customers to capture the details and to review the document, share it, notify. All the communication part will be done by the front desk. And in the back desk, at the back office, there will be some people who are working with the systems, like creating accounts, activating the account, and things like that. And customer will still be there to review the documents and sign the documents. So this is more of like a redesign process, like initial stage of re-engineering, where the layouts are clear, people know what they are supposed to do, and even the customers know where they should be redirected. So we have a proper process flow now after redesigning. Now, as you have redesigned the process, maybe you can consider process automation. Where you can consider process automation is most of the process that are at the back end. So wherever you are dealing with systems like creating account, maybe sending documents, activating account, reviewing documents, those you can automate. There are enough of technologies like RPA and things like that, which is there to automate repetitive mundane tasks. But to interact with customer, you still need a person. So to capture account details, and after signing to review the documents. So for those details, you will still need people, but all the back office work, you can get it automated. So initially in this process, you were in need of 6 people, whereas now it has reduced to 3 people with automation. Now we'll see how it will change with AI transformation. So from AI transformation, what we are telling is you can do it with just one person. And that one person is also to just communicate with customers, just to capture details, to give them initial understanding of what is the process, what are the areas they have to clear with, what are the documents they should refer and things like that. But the rest of the process in terms of account activation, to review documents, to notify customers, activating account, everything is automated. So that's how it will look when you do a process re-engineering while considering AI transformation. So just see how things have improved from a messy process of so many people, so many documents, people being, directed here and there. We organized it to a nice process with 6 people who are clear with their job roles, the things they should do, and we automated it to reduce their workload. And now all these backlog work is done by machine, whereas a human is there to interact and help customers. So that is the benefit you see with AI transformations. This is a scenario I thought of introducing for you to understand the AI transformation within an organization in a better way. So now we'll see what are the trends that are existing at the moment when it comes to business process re-engineering in the industry, and what are the current trends we have. So at the moment, if you see now, all these days, how we have been doing business process re-engineering is with, we have to go talk to clients, we have to sit with them, understand the process, do interviews, do workshops, and so many other things to understand the process. So it was a lot of work. You had to do a lot of work to do this. You need paper, pencils, you have to document it, and you have to collect those papers, things like that. But now it's very easy. You have tools and techniques that are there which has made it very easy. You don't really have to spend a lot of time. So in this particular area, so in 2025, there are people who are using cloud technologies to create replicas, robotic process automation like RPA vendors, UiPath, Automation Anywhere to automate their processes. That's how the trends are moving. And almost 20% of the organization that have adapted AI transformation has reduced their operational costs and has achieved maximum efficiency, process efficiency, at least like 30 to 40% of the organization with AI transformation. So when technology is available, why shouldn't you take it is the question. So let's see what are the trends. Let's just dive into the trends and see how it's working. So the first thing is hyperautomation, where you see RPA, that's robotic process automation, artificial intelligence, and machine learning stitched together. So what is RPA? Just for a quick introduction, what I would say is RPA is about automating repetitive mundane tasks which people have been continuously doing with system. They might be bored of it. So now you're gonna automate this stuff. So there are already vendors who are there, like UiPath, Automation Anywhere. So those RPA vendors, you can easily automate your processes with those vendors. But now these vendors have also got some artificial intelligence and machine learning technologies incorporated into their models, into their learning materials, where you have human interactive orchestrations and interfaces where both bot and human could work together. So those are the use case scenarios which you find with hyperautomation. Anyway, down the line I will be also showing you a demo. So that's about hyperautomation. So now, once you have, so in most of the Middle East countries like banks and all, most of the tasks are automated. So once you automate, now everything is there in the system, right? Bot has all the event logs, the activity log, everything is there. So the next step is to do process mining. So these vendors themselves have process mining where now whatever we do with workshops and papers, we can do it with the feature that is there in RPA and in RPA vendor partnership itself. So in UiPath, it's called process mining. Similarly, Automation Anywhere also has a feature. So you just have to click the process. The process mining will go through all the event logs and highlight the redundant step, where we are doing inefficient, where we are being repetitive, what are the bottlenecks, everything comes in. So you just have to spend time in just fixing it. You don't have to waste time in analyzing. Whatever you did for days and nights in workshops trying to get stakeholders in is done in minutes through this feature, which is process mining. And you have the analytics ready as well. So that's the second trend. Now, the next is digital twins and simulation for strategy, where now you get cloud replicas generated. So current, like at the moment, what a lot of organization, or in the past, I would be precise, what organization was doing is they do phase-wise implementation, they do parallel implementation, they ideally implement it and see to understand whether it works. Excuse me, but now you have technologies where you can simulate the business scenario, the business environment, and just run the process and see the re-engineered process to see whether it actually works or not. So you don't have to disturb your process, your people, your organization culture. Nothing gets interrupted or disturbed. It's just a simulation that is created in the cloud and you just implement it. So when you actually do the implementation, you can move on with confidence. Okay, with this I have at least tried it, and it may be with 70 to 80% confidence you can move on. So which I think is a value-adding factor to any process engineers. And the fourth trend is, which is very easy, you have a lot of low-code, no-code platforms. So the most empowered term in the technical field now is citizen developers. So even without a lot of engineering background or technical knowledge, you can still develop platforms, and there are there are platforms that help you to develop system with less without a lot of need of engineering knowledge. APN is there, and maybe there are a few other platforms also, like Appian, Microsoft Power Portal. All those things help you to do this low code, no code implementation. So that is another trend that you see in the organization at the moment. So these are a few examples of the automation techniques we have at the moment. So as I told, robotic process automation, which is software bots that mimic human action for a rule-based repetitive task. Now for this automation, one thing which you have to keep in mind is, if you have all these work done in papers and hard copies, you can't automate. Definitely you can't automate. You should at least put an effort, the organization or even for your client, you should at least put a small effort to get all this paperwork at least adapted to an Excel sheet or a Word document or a PDF in a computer or a laptop. Else you can't definitely implement robotic automation or software bots. So that is clear. So when I mean systematic work, it's not getting just implementing the process, but if there is no digital transformation, then you can't definitely implement RPA. So the minimum requirement is it should be a repetitive rule-based task, and all the source documents should be there in a laptop, in a computer or a system. Else you can't. So few vendors that do robotic process automations are UiPath, Automation Anywhere, Blue Prism, etc. Now workflow automation is where you try to connect apps, route work to end-to-end business process. So where this is mostly used in process re-engineering, and when you have system trying to integrate them, like Appian and all, enables workflow automation. So you have processors, you have system, you just have to develop a connection between these systems and automate the workflow. So that's what this technique is all about. So there are enough of vendors in the industry like Nintex, Camunda, Zapier. So you just draw the process and get the entire workflow automated. And then chatbots. This is something very trending and customers like it a lot. So in the recent past, whatever system you do, you always see a person coming with a chat asking, "Hi, how are you? Hi, I'm Alexa," or whatever the name, and they ask, "How can I help you?" So which creates an interactive moment with the system. Hey, there's someone greeting me who is trying to help me. I know it's a bot, but still, it's an exciting factor or excitement to the customers who are trying to use that feature or use that technology. So now, if like even in Sri Lanka, dialogue, telecom, whatever, name it, all of them have chatbots. Even banking websites and app, they have chatbots. So there are vendors who provide these chatbot development services even exclusively, like IBM Watson, Amazon, Ada, Rasa. There are so many other organizations that provide this chatbot service done, where you can actually query out how you want a chatbot to work. So if you recollect the scenario I told, the front desk part where you need at least a human there to do the initial conversation, seems now you don't need that also, because you have chatbot which is there to interact with customers and try to help them, unless it's like a different scenario, or like unexpected, or scenario where you have to get a human involved. So that's the thing. And then AI virtual assistants. These is like a boon that AI gave, especially to employees who are in the industry. Virtual assistants, whatever the work, even for students, like the research work, name it, whatever work you want to do, like summarize, documentation, research, market research, trying to understand dynamics, you have virtual assistants. You don't really have to go and read documents, read articles, papers. If you ask these virtual assistants, they'll give you all the information. So what are such virtual assistants? Copilot, Gemini AI, Claude, everything. So whatever you ask, they quickly give you information lined up with sources and everything. So you just click it and just type, you get everything. Sometimes you don't have to even type, you can just speak it out. So people who are not in a position to type, you just speak it out to the virtual assistant and they'll give you all the information. So this is a huge boon, like especially in technical, like in IT industry, if you see, starting from business analysts to engineers to QAs, virtual assistants help a lot, from doing a market research analysis to doing coding to do testing, whatever. Virtual assistants help a lot. And as you have automated workflow, chatbots, also the process, now next is to see data processing and analytics. So now you have automated processes, you have the data log, you have the activity log, you need a AI assistants to do analysis of that data, right? So that's where this data processing and analytics technology comes. So already we have few database technology like Snowflake, Tableau, and things like that. So where they already have an incorporated AI feature with which it helps you to do automatic AI transformation. So that's what this data processing and analytics is all about. So next, I want to discuss a current transformation that has happened with procure to pay. So this is a AI implementation. It's a hyperautomation. To be honest, a hyperautomation scenario related to procure to pay, where you have RPA, artificial intelligence, machine learning, everything with by integrating all of them, how UiPath has automated, or like ideally done a business transformation for a particular process, which is procure to pay. So usually how procure to pay happens is, what is procure to pay? So just to give you a brief quick understanding, procure to pay is where you order materials from suppliers, right? So for the materials you have ordered, after they deliver it, you have to pay money to them. You have to pay them back, whether it's credit or cash or whatever. You have to agree on a payment terms. So that is what procure to pay is all about. So traditionally, when humans do it, they did it with three-way matching. So now when you do put an order with supplier, you will have a purchase order, so which is a document. And when supplier delivers the good from the warehouse, there will be a GRA, a goods delivered, goods received note will be provided. So that's GRN. And third one, the suppliers will bring an invoice to say, which will also have the details of the material you've ordered and the prices. So GRN is something, authorization or a sign off that is given by the warehouse telling these are the materials we have accepted and this is the quantity. And purchase order is the initial document that went from your organization to supplier requesting these are the material we want, these are the brands and this is the price. So those three documents are at the end handed over to finance where they'll match and do the relevant payment. But here in this particular scenario, they are doing a four-way match, which UiPath has facilitated. So let's see. So with AI transformation, they have gone one step beyond and has done a four-way match. How? Let's listen to the video and see how is it going. Let me know if you can't hear it.
Remember Haru and Maddie? I wonder what's happening in their agentic automation world today.
You know, Haru, now that we've implemented agentic automation in our procure-to-pay process, everyone's been asking what makes it so effective.
Well, why don't we find out? What makes agentic automation great for procure-to-pay? Oh, what do we have here?
When it comes to agentic automation, the key is always seamless collaboration between people, AI agents, and robots. The best solutions integrate all three. Let's explore how this works. In procure-to-pay, AI agents act as data experts. They use intelligent document processing to read and extract data from invoices, purchase orders, and contracts, connecting effortlessly with your procurement and financial systems to streamline the entire process. AI agents and robots form a powerful partnership. Robots provide a robust, enterprise-grade foundation, while AI agents add the intelligence, interpreting unstructured inputs and making real-time decisions. Together, they enable end-to-end automation of complex procurement and payment workflows.
Gosh, that's impressive when it's spelled out like that. Let's find out more.
AI agents and robots collaborate seamlessly. While robots ensure reliable execution of structured tasks, AI agents adapt to nuances in supplier communications, contract terms, and market conditions. This powerful combination overcomes the limitations of using either technology alone, enabling truly intelligent end-to-end automation. Yeah, that's my personal favorite. What else is there? In procure-to-pay, accuracy is crucial. Your AI agents are constantly monitored and measured. They adjust and improve over time, learning from each transaction to enhance efficiency and compliance.
Brilliant!
And when facing an issue or an exception, they bring a human into the loop. They really thought of everything.
There's more?
Procure-to-pay specialists can easily create and refine AI agents in a low-code environment, tailoring them to specific workflows. And they can be built by process owners or business users.
Just like you did, Maddie. Well, that explains why our procure-to-pay process is running better than ever. Experience the power of agentic automation.
So what is the new improvement they've done? What they have done is, in addition to so you have three steps, as I told you, the invoice, three documents, purchase order, invoice, and GRN. In addition, with the help of the agentic AI transformation feature that is there in UiPath, they have gone to an extent where they have gone to extent where they went through the contract that they have entered with suppliers, emails, payment terms. So agentic AI, the AI element in UiPath has gone to that extent where it's going through the terms and agreements they have entered also to match with the procure to consider it as a matching source when you implement a procure to pay process. So AI transformation is not gonna, automation actually automated the way you work. So it reduced a lot of backlog processors you have in the plate and saved a lot of time, efficient, whatever. So it was like working 24/7 as bot is there. But with this agentic AI improvement, it has gone one step above and has done something which is in addition to what human could do. And as it's 24/7 available, it can do any amount of validation you need. So that's the biggest boon this AI transform, this AI, the agentic shift in process reengineering has, only if you use it correctly. So if you do a proper business process reengineering, a proper plan, a change management, a knowledge transfer and training to resources, you can actually be way beyond and improve, optimize your process and do even things which you can't do with AI implementation. But what all you need is a strategic decision and proper implementation when it comes to process reengineering. So that's how we've come to the end of the sessions. If you have any questions or clarifications, you can raise them now. Or even any thoughts about the session, if you want to share something or any feedback, we are open to that. So the forum is open for discussions.
For the hard work and effort you put into doing the session for us. And really shows from the content and your slides as to how much effort you put in for this. So we really appreciate it. So yeah, while that yes, and the session has come to an end. So team, any questions, any views you'd like to exchange with Poshene? Any doubts you want to clarify with her?